my boy.
Hello all, and welcome back to the CDI Spotlight. It's certainly been a while since I've discussed anything CDI related, and I've been itching to get back into it. Longtime subscribers might remember that I did a CDI Spotlight on Moses the Exodus last year, and that I mentioned that it had a sequel. Well, there are 2 Moses games, but there's actually a lot more than that. There's actually 6 of these religious games in all. The games include the 2 Moses games that I already mentioned, the story of Samson, Noah's Ark, the story of Jonah, and David and Goliath. Unfortunately, David and Goliath is apparently very rare, and I've had trouble finding a copy. I've actually never seen a copy of this game surface on eBay since I purchased my CDI. Granted, I haven't kept the closest eye on the market, but I haven't seen one since I saved the search. All 6 of these religious games were made by Interlight, or Interlight Productions Incorporated as it's listed on the back of the box. They created these games to, well, I'll let them say why they created these games.
As parents, teachers, or anyone associated closely with children, you are aware of the timely need for wholesome children's entertainment. Interlight Productions has responded to that need with the Children's Bible series in CDI form. Children are naturally curious and eager to learn. CDI technology provides a new and exciting medium to enlighten, educate, and entertain today's children. Interlight's Bible stories and activities are designed to encourage strong biblical morals and ethics. Children learn valuable lessons based exclusively on the Bible while having many hours of fun. We suggest that the CDI Bible series be a supplement to your family's time of Bible reading. While children can utilize the stories and activities by themselves, we encourage you to view the series together. Interlight's goal is to provide children and adults alike with the much-needed biblical truth that will strengthen and encourage them in the years to come.
Now, not a lot is known about this company. We're talking about a company that started before the days of high-speed internet and more than likely closed in the same time period. According to the world of CDI, Interlight is only known for these 6 religious CDI titles. Speaking of, for today's Spotlight, I'd like to talk about the other Moses game, Moses, Bound for the Promised Land. Before I begin though, I actually need to make a correction to my Moses the Exodus CDI Spotlight. I mistakenly said that Moses the Exodus was the first game and Moses Bound for the Promised Land was the sequel. I believe that that's actually incorrect. Although both games came out within a year of each other, Moses Bound for the Promised Land actually came out first. Of course, that also depends on which website you look at. The World of CDI states that both games came out in the same year, whereas other sites say that they came out after a year of one another. I initially thought that Moses Bound for the Promised Land came out after Moses the Exodus because, well, the story happens after the Exodus. In any case, is this game bound to provide us with something new and unique, or is it nothing but broken promises? Let's find out. Wait a minute, did I just put Moses the Exodus in the disk tray? Nope. Interlight decided to use the same background hub or artwork for all of their games, except for the story of Samson. I'm not entirely sure what makes that game special, but it is a little different. Also, even though I don't have the David and Goliath game, screenshots from the game show that familiar hub. So, familiar background aside, what makes this game unique from Moses the Exodus? Well, for one, the main movie of Moses the Exodus was the Exodus mini-movie. In Bound for the Promised Land, it's Promised Land. The main game of Moses Bound for the Promised Land is also different. Instead of a weird maze game in Pyramid Pursuit, we have Desert Quest. So Interlight created a pretty good cookie-cutter template to use for their games. I almost wonder if the CDI was more successful if they would have made more games with the same style. Well, let's dive in and see what's different in Moses Bound for the Promised Land.
I'm going to start with the main movie and see if the comments I made for Moses the Exodus apply here as well.
Holy shit, is that animation?
Yes it is. But it's not for the entire movie. There are still portions of the mini-movie that are static images with a voiceover. But it looks like there was more effort to make it make sense. There are a lot of scenes where the characters talk and the images don't move, but a lot of it is narrator voiceover, so it makes sense that the images are still. Like the mini-movie in Moses the Exodus, the artwork, narration, and audio in Moses Bound for the Promised Land is actually really good. In fact, I have less complaints about this game's main movie because there's animation that matches the character's dialogue.
So, color me impressed with this movie. It's weird that they went backwards with Moses the Exodus though. I'm guessing it was just easier to keep the animation at a minimum to churn these titles out as quickly as possible, since these titles pretty much all came out around the same time. So, Moses the Exodus had a main game for players called Pyramid Pursuit. Let's see what this one has.
Welcome to Desert Quest, the game where your knowledge of amazing Bible facts and desert trivia takes you to prize-winning showcases. I'm your host, made to be a ham. To begin the game, click on the showcase of your choice. If you need to hear rules of the game, click on Help. Remember, as soon as you select your showcase, the timer begins. And now, let's get started. Good luck.
Oh, great. I wonder if this was sponsored by Joe Camel.
Okay, so I mentioned that I felt the game in Moses the Exodus was weird due to the odd religious metaphors because, well, they didn't really tie in with what was happening on the screen. Did Interlight do something different here? Yes and yes. Desert Quest is a game where the player selects a location to search for treasure. Sounds fun, but when I say search for treasure, I actually meant answering multiple choice questions. Desert Quest is less of an interactive experience than Pyramid Pursuit and more of a multiple choice quiz game. The player needs to answer questions in order to progress in the location they choose. The more questions the player gets right, the closer they get to the treasure trove. You are timed when you play these games, so you really can't take your time to think about the answer. If the player answers the question wrong, they'll get buzzed and are actually required to manually tell the game that they need a new question. The questions aren't the hardest, but some did require me to think twice. If you run out of time, you get a game over and you have to start again. I mentioned that the game is timed, but there isn't a clear icon or interface that indicates how much time the player has. I assume it has something to do with the ginormous stoplight on the upper right, but I'm not entirely sure. If you manage to get to the end of one of the locations, you're presented with a lovely image of assorted junk or prizes. The goal here is to click on items that earn points. How the player knows which items to click is beyond me. I just clicked randomly. If you click the wrong item, you get a buzzer sound, but the right items reveal points. You're timed in here as well, but there is zero indication of a timer that I know of.
So, I appreciate the effort to incorporate more edutainment features in the main gameplay section, but this game just isn't fun. Granted, I didn't necessarily like Pyramid Pursuit because it was confusing as well, but it still had things that made me laugh. Desert Quest? Not so much. Let's see what else this disc has to offer.
So, Moses Bound for the Promised Land has the same features as Moses the Exodus. It also has the same mini-games. That is, paint section, connect the dots, and slide puzzles. I won't go into detail here because, well, I already mentioned it in my Moses the Exodus review. Moses Bound for the Promised Land also has a Tell Me More section that features new videos to learn about religion and other religious items. It actually has less videos than Moses the Exodus though, so that's a bit disappointing. Especially because they didn't even change the layout of the books on the screen. Moses Bound for the Promised Land also features a Bible section, and I decided to take a look at it in detail this time. While I appreciate the effort that went into designing this, I do have a criticism. You only get a snippet of a Bible section on the screen, and to navigate it is a pain. The slider works only when it wants to, and the arrows seem to move you onto another section entirely. It's just very difficult to navigate.
So, Moses Bound for the Promised Land features 5 new songs, and while I'll say they're all good, they're not as catchy as Moses and Me from the Exodus game. So both Moses games feature the same art style, great narration, and fun songs. Moses Bound for the Promised Land does address some of the complaints I had for Moses the Exodus, but it also has some of its own unique issues, like the uninspired game that doesn't really explain what's happening on the screen. With that being said though, I'm giving Moses Bound for the Promised Land 2 Joe Camels, or whatever his name is, out of 5. Mind you, if Moses Bound for the Promised Land had a better main game, I would have given it the same score as Moses the Exodus. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this spotlight on the second Moses CDI title. I have more spotlights planned for the year, so stay tuned, and as always, thank you for watching.
Yippee!